Hey guys, this is Genesis with Genesis, the beginning of something beautiful. And I'm coming at you today with a tutorial. This is going to be something a little different. Of course, it's going to be about the divine masculine, dummy masculine, da-da-da-da masculine, and divine feminine, as we are all the way. I want to come at you with a tutorial. Definitely the main reason that I'm doing this is to help people like me heal. 5D, five dimensional people, fifth dimensional realm living people heal. The divine feminine heal. The queens of this planet heal. And hopefully, from my own story, you guys can, share in the healing process, but not only share in the healing process, but hopefully you can get, closure and healing just from stories like mine. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you information that I have collected through remote viewing and through my own psychic abilities. And also information that I've gotten through my dream state because I operate in the fourth dimension. I have a lot of fourth dimensional skills that God has placed upon me, and my abilities are getting stronger and stronger. I'm using YouTube as my platform. I'm here, and it's nothing wrong to profit off of your pain. It's nothing wrong, in my opinion, to share your experience. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I'm gonna just basically do a psychic reading, a tarot reading, I guess, if you will, or a psychic reading on my own life and what happened to me. I have several masculines. I don't just have one. I have options. Um, each story that I have is intricate, one by one, in and of itself. They, are stories of narcissistic abuse, extreme spiritual and metaphysical abuse. Um, yeah, so that's all I wanted to, say about that. But I want to come to you guys. I don't want to ramble on, but um, hopefully my story helps others. There's a lot. My point is also there are the Galactic Federation. You had the reptilian, you had the Draco, you had the insectilian, you had the gray, you had the Duro. And these entities made up and created the karmic relationships because that's how they move. It's about the sex, it's about the money. When the shift in consciousness happened, we were hoping that our dun masculines that come from royal genetic melanated bloodlines. They didn't want to adhere or connect with their own bloodline, so they chose karmics in the 3D. Now these operations that they're operating in have turned into 2D operations. So with my own story, if you look at the tarot card readers, like when you have a reading done on you, a lot of times the readings that you have done, you should already know the information that's being given to you. The tarot card readers and the psychic readers, they just give you clarity. And they've given me a lot of clarity on my situation. So even though it's some things about my situation, it's personalized because it's me, and it was the different things that happened to me through my masculine. At this point in this journey, I am so thankful and so glad that even in that time, divine feminine, we were on code. We were in formation. We were building our matriarchy. We were doing what we needed to do, even though we got interference from these bywords, from, as they say, karmics, these soulless beings, these beings that are legions of demons that have that are connected to each other, just as our ancestors are connected to each other, which work through us. You are your ancestors. So with my masculine, I'll talk about because I have one that's draconian. I have a few of them that are Andromeda insectilian. One who has Andromeda insectilian with reptilian on the recessive side. I would refer to him as my classic man due to the fact that he looks a lot like me. He has dark skin like me. One that's Andromeda and Sectilian with Anunnaki. He would be my light-skinned friend, even though we'll never be friends again, not in 3D. Then I have divine masculines who are from the Draconian bloodline, because we made alliances with and also from the Anunnaki bloodline. I have divine masculines, being one of them is my husband. So we've made alliances, with the Anunnaki and 3% of the Draco, due to the fact that our Andromeda and Sectilian males are out for the count. So I could start backwards to forward or forward to backward with my story, but my psychic reading for myself that I've done with my Andromeda and Sectilian, with Anunnaki on the recessive side, it was a setup from the beginning, unbeknownst to me. I think that when we got with our genetic counterparts, some of them were pretty much already done. They were already operating and actually they were already operating in the second dimension. Now, you got to remember, at one point, the Andromeda and Sectilian male and the Andromedan male, they were dominating 5D. So by the time we met up with them, they were already in 2D, which is... So it was worth a try, but I think that it was a blank mission from the get-go. Anytime you have a transition, a shifting in consciousness, it's never going to be a smooth transition. Now, when I was coming out of matriarchy in 5D, when I was getting the downloads and the intel about my Andromeda and Sectilian with Anunnaki on the recessive side, when I was in 5D, I was the queen of this region in 5D. What's now known as Florida, this was like the capital when we were operating in the 5th dimension of this region. Florida was like the capital of this region for matriarchy, starting with the 5th, 6th, 7th dimension. Okay, so that's one thing. What happened to my divine masculine? He was intact. He had a 5D body with a soul, and we were very close. He was my best friend. He really was, because we at one point had grown up together. And so he really was my best friend. And at one point we did meet each other, and we had grown up together, and it grew into something more. His mother, I told you I'm from the metaphysical realm. I'm not from the physical realm. I was put here in another region, and his mother, his physical realm mother, who's been his physical realm mother for lifetimes, and she's a beautiful woman. She does have a karmic twin who has caused her a lot of hell, but her herself, she's fully intact. Her soul and her body didn't separate. She was the first person to find me. You know how the Bible talked about how they used to have babies that were floating down the rivers or in bushes, and someone would hear the baby crying, and they would take the baby as their own and raise it. Well, that actually really happened on this planet. Our extraterrestrial bloodline, they would put children here, mainly girls, and they would drop you off here, as we were told, as the locals were told, that we were dropped off here by the gods. We were, these children were dropped off here by the gods, and they saw us as gods because we didn't have a physical realm mother. So I was, a lot of times they would, these extraterrestrials, the Andromedans, they would put us here in order to carry out the bloodline, populate the planet and things like that. The original reason that the Andromeda and Sectilian, for instance, was put here wasn't necessarily for good reason. We were put here to breed slaves. But anyway, I was put here, and my twin flame's physical realm mother found me and raised me as if I was her own, And so what happened was, who I was, make a long story not so long, who I was, my energy wasn't as conducive with the region that I had been placed in. So they ended up placing me here And a lot of the melanated women are from the Andromedan bloodline, for instance. Our womb is connected to the ecosystems of various regions. We're beyond indigenous. We're connected to these regions metaphysically. We're connected to these regions higher than just indigenous roots, higher than just physical realm roots. We're connected on a metaphysical level. I had dual citizenship between what is now known as Africa and America. And so that's how I was found. And so because I was placed here. So when I was in 5D, fifth, sixth, seventh dimension with my twin flame, the thing that played out as we were coming out of home court advantage and as we were going into home court advantage, that region was trying to invade on my dynasty, invade on my queendom, and take me out of my position, kill me, and replace me. This is something that happened when we were coming out of matriarchy. The difference is my twin flame was protecting me, and we were solid. So he was protecting me. He had a army of over 250,000 warriors. He had a platoon of over 250,000 warriors. He brought them all over here, a lot of them over here. I was financing the army, feeding them and everything. And he was protecting my nation and protecting me and whatever resources that I generated, because I'm a manifester. He was protecting the resources, and he had manifested his own resources in the physical realm. So we were helping each other, and we were helping each other. We found each other. So I was here, and he came over here because we talked in the astral realm and all of that, and we met up with each other again. And even as we were coming out of matriarchy, we still were able to build a dynasty, in a time where we were losing home court advantage. He had some of the people in his family, they were very fucked up. There was one person over there, one queen in particular, that they had made a queen. She was a product of inbreeding. Once again, I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to say anything like that, but because I can't. But she was a product of inbreeding. A lot of times what happened over there in Africa, they were losing home court advantage and they panicked. So a lot of those entities were flipping they were doing inbreeding in order to maintain control of those dynasties. So what ended up happening because of that, you had the Duro, you had the Galactic Federation, the Duro, the Draco, the Reptilian, all these entities from the Galactic Federation. They were able to jump into the bloodline of the African because of that and destroy the bloodlines, damn near destroy the bloodlines. Now you had a particular full Andromedan, I'm not going to say her name, but shout out to her. And she's there to this day. Her soul and her body didn't separate either. And she's there to this day trying to clean up the family tree and clean up the bloodline, because you have entities like the Duro, the Reptilian, who have jumped into the bloodlines over there and claiming those bloodlines as if they're the Andromedans family members. The same thing happened over here in America with the so-called woman that was supposed to be myself and my sister's mother. She wasn't. It was from the Reptilian bloodline. They did the same thing. They jumped into the bloodline of myself, my great-grandmother, and my sister. So the same thing happened over here, played out. So what it did, it devastated our family trees. And it basically brought much confusion to the bloodline, and it created a lot of karmic situations, byword situations. You had a lot of soulless entities being born into your family tree who weren't your family. It's like they were your mother, but they weren't your mother. So these legions of demons took over the bloodlines. So even though my twin flame at the time, in that time, when we were in 5th, 6th, 7th dimension and we were coming out of home court advantage and matriarchy, he still was with me because we were connected mind, body, and soul. But he had fucked up family members. And this entity, which was an Andromeda Insectilian female, they had made her a queen, but she was a product of inbreeding. She didn't even want him. They were sleeping on him because he had a soul. They didn't think he was gonna be anything or do anything. They didn't want him until I got with him and we started building together in love. Then they wanted to come over here and take my queendom. Then they wanted him to kill me and he wouldn't. So we were married 18 years. 18 years. And nearly half of that time, it was his own family. It was his own family fighting us. They waged a war against my nation. And I was the queen of this nation. It was like a situation where, you know, some of the people, the women that are from the Andromedan bloodline, the legit women that were related to him through the bloodline lineage, they were fine. They were connected to me and I was connected to them through matriarchy. You know, but you had entities that had jumped into the bloodline and they hated me. They were jealous of me. And they were mad at him for sticking by my side, and they couldn't understand why I was doing so much for him. You know, and it wasn't that I was doing, I mean, I was, but he was doing a hell of a lot for me. We were helping each other, and they were very jealous, but they slept on him. You know, they didn't see what I saw in him, and they weren't connected to him the way I was. And he came over here and he became very successful. He was one of the most greatest world-renowned warriors on the planet. He had a platoon of over 250,000 men. I mean, he was like the shit. You know, he was worthy of respect. He was everything that we lost in the black man. And the thing that I liked about him was he was badass. I mean, when they're in their 5D body, this man was like 7'2". He was built like a gladiator. He was built like a brick. He was perfection. He was smart. He had every right to be arrogant if he wanted to be, but he never was. And the thing that I loved about him was that he was humble and he was kind and he was genuine. He was so humble and so kind. And when we lost that in the black man, we lost the black man. It ain't never been the same. We ain't never had that back. Not in that motherfucker. So anyway, his fucked up ass family members waged war against my queendom. They was trying to kill me first, but they ended up killing him. They assassinated him. I think the girl was his cousin. She was an Andromeda Insectilian. She was a product of inbreeding. Her mother had purposefully created her. To this day, she's angry at her mother for making her like that. I think she had sex with a brother and they created her. And she looked slow. She looked like when she go to bed, the bitch looked like she drool. Okay? Yeah, bitch, I Googled you. And you ain't shit. And your mama ain't shit either. So, I agree. She wrong for making your ass. And this girl, because she's a product of inbreeding, she got a lot of health issues. That brought about a lot of health issues. I mean, she got the dark skin. She got the locked hair. You know, she's supposed to be cute. She's supposed to be pretty, but she got a lot of health issues because of what her mother did to her. And she and I'm talking about in the present now. She very angry at her mother because of what her mother did. But, you know, she ain't asked to be here. But at least her daughter that she got now, that one fine. She didn't come out fucked up like her mother. That's the one that's going to change all this shit. And she got a soul. But her mother doesn't, because she a product of inbreeding. So, you know, sometimes it's sad because even as a child, I mean, even before you're born, God put an anointing on you. And that little girl have an anointing on her that her mother only wished she could have. You know, but she not cut out to do the work because she a product of inbreeding and she never had a soul. Anytime you fuck your own family members for resources, you got some problems. But anywho, that's over with. They're not going to be able to live like that. So anyway, he fought for this nation. He died with honors, my twin flame. And I was so devastated. And they put me on what would have been considered today a suicide watch. They were afraid that I was going to kill myself. But I wasn't going to kill myself because we had 2 children. We had 2 kids. Travis Trenton and Tyler Tobias. So I wasn't going to do that. But I didn't know what my next move was going to be. And they ripped us apart. It was some of the people in his own family. It was his own family members. So when we was coming out of matriarchy, they was trying to jump into my position, and guess what? When we going back into matriarchy, motherfuckers tried to do the same thing. Only difference is the man who used to be my genetic counterpart, the twin flame, he turned into a shell. And he doesn't have a soul. Some other entity took him over. He went all the way down to the second dimension and ended up teaming up with a Duro, reptilian bitch, that eat feces out of her own children's diapers. And they came against me to take my queendom. Once again, it didn't work. I'm still here glowing, building this dynasty. So now they fighting each other and shit. He was trying to help her be me. She was trying to be me. She couldn't pull off the anointing. It was too big even for her, big ass. And here I am. So my point is, I want to say this. You know how they say, it used to really kind of bother me when people said that everything that you put in your life, or everything that you go through in your life, you put it there. Everything that you go through in your life, you put it there. But you know what? It's a lot of truth to that. Because when I was in 5D and I lost my twin flame, they killed him. I mean, they ripped him up. I didn't even have a body. So I never really got closure because I never was able to see a body. They ripped him up. And I used to sit. It wasn't a day that went by that I didn't cry. And I would go to all the places where we would spend the most time together. I would sit where we had got married by the water, and I would sit and just so I could be in his energy, because when he died, his soul never left me. His soul stuck around, and I could see it, and he waited on me. So I remember sitting in my room crying, because it wasn't a day that went by that I didn't cry about his death. It was really, really hard. It was difficult. And I used to say to myself, I wish I could just have a shell of him. If only I could just see a shell of him. And then when I came down to 3D, that's what I got. Words are powerful. Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be that fucked up, but I had spoke that. So sometimes we don't know the power of our words, But it was just that I had missed him so much in those moments. And I wish that I had something tangible. And I just felt with that twin flame thing, it's like you so connected, mind, body, and soul. And I just wish that I didn't, it was really hard to deal with his death. He handled it a lot better than I did. So I felt he did. So you know, we were both 44 years old when he passed away. And some years later, 15 years later, I think I was 59. Yeah, 15 years after that, after he passed, I passed. I died of a broken heart, basically. And I remember being there, and his mother was there, and my kids were there, and the shaman was there, and I was on my deathbed, and I could see him I could see his soul at the foot of the bed, and I was like, you know, there it's him. He's right there. I said I could see him. He's right there. And when I passed away, I never felt so much more alive. It was like I didn't die. It was like when I passed and my soul left my body, I never felt so alive in my life. I felt so alive. And that's how I knew there's no such thing as death. The two things that you experience when you come out of 5D is separation and death. When you go to fifth dimension, there's no such thing as death. And all the pain, everything I felt, that's the best way to experience the twin flame relationship. When you have a soul and he have a soul, and all this other bullshit don't even matter. The fighting, the racism, all the other bullshit don't even matter. And you could just be together soul to soul.